So I had somebody make a sock account today and harass a sister on my channel, and also accuse me and my friends of not even being saved and calling us vipers. Because when we read some of these verses here in Jeremiah 31, we take it at face value. And so because we take it literally at face value, this person's accusing us of not even being saved. And they try to teach this Calvinistic thing about how they have a new heart. And, you know, it basically, what they want to teach is the Calvinistic thing, the perseverance of the saints. Okay, where they think you're just going to have all these great works that are like perfect until the end of your life. And well, let me point out these verses again in Jeremiah 31. Okay. And let me also remind you that, you know, the vast majority of Calvinists, you know, maybe even all of them. I mean, I've never met a Calvinist that didn't believe that the church is Israel. Okay, they all seem to believe that the church is Israel. You know, let me know if you've ever met. You know, obviously I haven't met every single one, but it just seems like, well, if you consider yourself like a Calvinist, or Lord Shipper, you just, like reading people who follow after Calvinism, it seems like they all really believe that the church is Israel. But look, a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Okay. That's not the church. And he even reminds you, like, who are these people, okay? Oh, those are the people, that I made the covenant with their fathers in the day I took them out of the land of Egypt. Okay. Okay, so John Calvin's fathers were not taken out of the land of Egypt. Okay, a bunch of Lutherans weren't taken out of the land of Egypt. A bunch of Anglicans weren't taken out of the land of Egypt. A bunch of Pentecostals weren't taken out of the land of Egypt. A bunch of Southern Baptists weren't taken out of the land of Egypt. A bunch of Roman Catholics were not taken out of the land of Egypt. Okay. The children of Israel were taken out of the land of Egypt. Okay. And then later on, they went into the promised land, formed a nation, and then eventually their kingdom split into Israel and Judah. Okay. Where Israel became the northern kingdom, Judah became the southern kingdom, and then that's why here it's talking about Israel and Judah. Okay. But Israel and Judah, when they came out of the land of Egypt, they were known as the children of Israel. Okay? That wasn't a bunch of Puritans, a bunch of Calvinists. Okay? It was the children of Israel. So, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break. Although I was an husband unto them, saith the Lord. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts, and will be their God, and they shall be my people. And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, for they shall all know me, from the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and I will remember their sin no more. Now, if you think this is talking about the church, you're going to have to conclude that God hasn't forgiven you of your iniquity yet, okay? And that he still remembers your sins. Okay? Is that what you believe? You think people in the church are Israel, but they're not forgiven? What in the world? Because that's what you would have to conclude. If you're reading this and you look at Israel and you just put in church, you come down here, that's what you're going to have to conclude. Okay? But look, clearly, this is not talking about the church. Clearly. Unless you just really hate Jews and think it's talking about the church, but it's actually not talking about the church. And even in the Old Testament, there's even prophecies of like the kingdoms being reunited, Judah and Israel being reunited, and becoming like just Israel again. So it's interesting that here Israel, Judah, and then here it says the house of Israel, because they're going to be reunited. Okay, so according to these verses, the old covenant was with their fathers, and the new covenant is going to be with them in the future. Okay? I mean, just take it literally. Okay? And in the future, when that covenant's made, okay, God's going to put his law in their inward parts, and he's going to write it in their hearts. Okay? And there's not going to be teachers anymore, because everybody's going to know God in Israel. But if you think this is talking about the church, then why are there teachers? Why are there pastors? Why are there Sunday school teachers? Why are there missionaries? Okay? Why is there evangelism in general? If you think this is like the church in present day, like, but apparently me and my friends are a bunch of unsaved vipers, because when we get to Jeremiah 31, we're just like, oh wow, that's talking about Israel. And also, let me tell you about some of these Calvinists. a lot of them will talk about how Jesus died for them, okay? But they don't believe Jesus died for you. And if they believe, look, somebody who believes that Jesus only died for certain people doesn't believe the God of the Bible. Just make that clear. Okay. The Bible clearly teaches that Jesus tasted death for every man. It says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth on him should not perish but have everlasting life. Whosoever, that's an open invitation, okay? And salvation is a free gift from God. And it's not, it's not of your works. It's not by works of righteousness, which you have done, okay? So, no, I'm not going to get in some typing war with somebody making sock accounts, trying to harass a sister and calling us unsaved vipers because we don't want to believe in Calvinism. Okay? And this person tries to give their testimony, the sock account, and it was heavily focused basically on like the sorrow of their sins and their emotions and all this stuff, and then then they gave lip service to the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. But for some reason, the death, burial, and resurrection of Christ, in their mind, doesn't apply to me and my friends. I mean, bunch of weird garbage that is, okay? And their weird reasoning of why we're not saved comes down to us refuting the Calvinistic perseverance of the saints heresy and us not believing in replacement theology. To where we look about stuff about a new heart and we see it's talking about Israel. Okay. Where like they just can't stand it. It's pretty weird, friend. Pretty weird.